Our planet is home to 7.6 billion people in 206 countries, each with its own historical, ethnic, and religious influence on its culture. Each culture is a lens through which people make sense of their experiences. Culture also influences people's values and goals. There are three methods for studying how culture influences behavior: cross-cultural psychology, cultural psychology, and indigenous psychology. This video will take you on a brief tour of the three methodologies and how they study the psychological function of intelligence. Cross-cultural psychology uses quantitative, standard measures such as the Stanford-Binet test to measure the intelligence of people in different countries. In theory, if the average of scores in England, Scotland, and Kenya are all 112, then people in these countries have equivalent average intelligence. However, if Kenyans score an average of 84 on the Stanford-Binet test, then one might assume that Kenyans are not as intelligent as the English and Scots. In this example, cross-cultural psychology views culture as the independent variable that has an impact on the dependent variable of intelligence. They would deduce that Kenyans are not as intelligent as the English and that something is therefore deficient in Kenyan culture. But that might be a faulty assumption. Cultural psychologists, on the other hand, would complete an in-depth analysis of Kenya to determine what human behaviors reflect high intellect. They would use qualitative measures such as interviews and discourse analysis to provide cultural insight. They may then find that Kenya places a high value on solving everyday problems while maintaining social cohesion. This relies on high social intelligence. Kenyans would therefore nurture social intelligence, which is not measured on the Stanford-Binet test, over crystallized and fluid intelligence, which are measured on the test. There is a cultural bias to the Stanford-Binet test in that in order to perform well, people need to be from cultures that have similar values and cultural backgrounds to the test writers. The challenge with cultural psychology is that it can't tell researchers if people in England are smarter on average than the people in Kenya. This is because the qualitative measures used by cultural psychologists cannot be generalized beyond the culture being studied. Indigenous psychology originated from the frustration of Western-dominated mainstream psychology and methodologies that don't take cultural differences into account. Indigenous psychologists would start with understanding how one culture, such as Kenya, perceives intelligence by using qualitative measures to facilitate cultural insight. They would then develop a test that assesses intelligence based on cultural values to provide quantitative measures. They would then understand how another culture, such as Zanzibar, values intelligence and develop a culturally appropriate test. They might then compare those assessments with how Americans perform on a Western developed measure to discover more universal truths about how intelligence works. Indigenous psychology uses all scientific measures available, which accounts for human experience while still collecting data that can be compared and subjected to statistical analysis. It addresses Western dominance of mainstream psychology by considering culture in their measures, while still having the ability to generalize across cultures. This addresses the weaknesses of the other two methods. Therefore, I think indigenous psychological approaches are the best method of incorporating culture into psychology. Thanks for watching. If you want to know about the research that led to my conclusion, my paper is available on Stream.